My name is Frank Doden, and I'm a member of the Yellow Springs Planning Commission. I'll be chairing our return to our Zoom Planning Commission meetings format. Thank you all for attending. First thing we're going to do is have the clerk call the roll, please.
Yes, Doden.
Here.
Stiles.
Here.
Green.
Here.
Amend.
Here.
Curlis.
Here.
Also present is Public Works Director Johnny Burns, Solicitor Brienne Parcels, and Planning and Zoning Administrator Denise Swinger. Village Manager Josue Salmarone is also present.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm just going to briefly go over tonight's agenda, which hopefully a lot of you have copies of. The first thing we'll do is a review of the minutes from the previous meeting in July. Then I'll quickly review the communications we've received this week, or for items on the agenda for this meeting. Then we'll have a council report. Laura, will you be doing a council report?
Yeah, very short.
Okay, and maybe Josue, will you have anything to add to that as well? Not sure if he's there or not, but I guess we'll find out when we get there. After that, there's a period called citizen comments, and that's a period where people will have an opportunity to comment on items that are not on tonight's agenda. There'll be separate public comment times for the items that we'll be considering for the conditional use hearings that we'll be having. We'll have a time for public comments for each of those. After citizen comments, then we'll have 3 public hearings. We have 3 conditional use hearings tonight. The first one having to do with 225 Corey Street. The second one for an accessory dwelling unit at 118 Marshall. And the third is for bed and breakfast at 310 Dayton Street. After that, the Planning Commission will return to discuss old business, new business, agenda planning, and then adjournment. So I guess we're ready to head into the agenda then. So let's begin by reviewing the minutes. This will be very exciting for the Planning Commission members, but possibly not so much for the people watching. We're just going to go through the minutes of the Tuesday, July 15th, 2021 meeting. I'll go through them one page at a time, and if any members of the Planning Commission have any additions or corrections or changes that need to be made, go ahead and chime in. So does anybody have anything on page 1?
I got the date wrong, but I'll change it.
Oh, sorry. Okay. Yep, it was wrong. Okay. Anything on page 2? Anything on page 3? Anything on page 4? Anything on page 5? Page 6. Must have been a long meeting. Page 7. Or page 8. Okay, not hearing anything. I'll move that the minutes for the Tuesday, July 13th, is that right?
Yes, correct.
2021 meeting, that the minutes be approved.
I second it.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Unless there's any discussion, will the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes, Stiles.
Yes.
Amend.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Curlis.
Yes.
Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We received, I think, 8 or 9 written communications, all having to do with the 3 conditional use hearings that we have coming up tonight, some in support of the different proposals and some opposed to the different proposals. I suspect that some of the people who may have written are also attending the meeting and will have an opportunity to speak as well. Let's move on to the council report then. Laura.
Just real quickly, council approved its own building department, and we had a first reading on residential and commercial permit fee schedules. Josue might say a little bit more about that. We will be hiring an outside contractor whose specialty is providing residential and commercial permit plan reviews and permitting. So it's not something we'll be doing in-house, although I'm sure Denise will be coordinating. We had citizen concern. Mitzi Miller is definitely concerned about the sidewalks. Please, everyone, if you have a sidewalk next to your property, if you could make sure that the grass is edged and and that vegetation is pulled back or trimmed back from the sidewalk so that people can pass. And the village staff is looking into better maintenance on that. Municipal broadband utility, we had a first reading on starting a municipal broadband utility. That kind of utility is dependent on citizens subscribing to the utility, so I encourage you to do so. And finally, I just want to touch on Lori Askeland at the last council meeting presented a proposal for a type of roadway treatment for Spilan Road. It would be a way to market to kind of provide a higher level of safety and clarity for people using Spilan, pedestrians, bikers, and vehicles, because it is a shared roadway in that way, like Livermore and some other streets that we have are. So I encourage you to look at that proposal. And that's it. Maybe Josue wants to say more about the building department. Thank you.
Hi, Frank. Thank you. Laura did a wonderful job of covering most of our work here. We wanted to take some time to provide Planning Commission an update on the building department, where we are in the process. What are the next steps, and answer any questions that Planning Commission members and any participants of this meeting may have on the matter. Laura mentioned that the building department has been fully approved. Our building schedule has also been approved by council, and the state has certified the Village of Yellow Springs building department. So we've checked off all the boxes that we needed to do. We are actively receiving permits. I think Denise already received her first permit. We've got a process in place already. So hey, we're getting it done. We're getting it done. As you know, my team is committed to looking at improving the economic activity in the village. So we see the building department and municipal broadband as economic development imperatives. We have a very fragile local economy, and these things together help attract business, encourage local business expansion. And we're looking out for our residents and our business owners to help them in their growth strategy and their efforts to thrive. Because if they do well, we as a community will do well. We'll be building a more resilient local economy. So do you have any questions for the building department?
Anybody, members of the Planning Commission, have any questions?
I see that Dino raised a hand. Maybe you're getting to him next.
Okay. Dino?
He's muted.
Yeah, one question I just had, what's the jurisdiction for the building department? Is it just the Yellow Springs, or is it outside Yellow Springs, the township, or other entities around the Miami Valley?
Currently it's only the Yellow Springs proper. So wherever our corporate boundaries lie, that's what we approved now. I think that there's some movement happening in the building permitting space. There are a lot of municipalities that are unhappy with the county process. We're currently the second municipality to move away from the county's process in the last 24 months. Cedarville's commercial, they decided to set up their own building department. We set up ours, and I hear rumblings about other municipalities that are unhappy. So I think there's going to be a shift happening in the space. Folks will either start their own, or there may be an opportunity for municipalities to take on other municipalities. I mentioned in my reports to council what West Jefferson, little old West Jefferson, was doing around the building permitting space. This is a village of similar size to us, and their building department is serving close to 60,000 residents through their building department. So they're serving the entire county on residential and other municipalities in both residential and commercial. So, but for the time being, while we are ambitious to see our community thrive, we're focused on it just being Yellow Springs.
And, Josue, what's the timeline for everything being up and operating?
It's up and up now. One of the things that, it's up. So Frank, or if any of you have a permit that you've been holding out because you were waiting for that lumber price to come down, or you were waiting on the process to get easier, we're open for business. So you can submit that tomorrow.
Okay, great. Okay. Any other questions from Planning Commission for Josue or Laura? Okay, thank you very much. We'll now have the period for citizen comments, and this will be regarding items that are not currently on tonight's agenda. And we'll ask you to electronically raise your hand somewhere on the screen and the borders. There'll be an option for you to do that. And we're asking everybody to limit their comments to 3 minutes. So I'll give everybody a few seconds here to see if there's any citizen comments out there about any items that are not on tonight's agenda. I don't see anybody waving. You see any electronic hand waving? Okay. I'll give everybody a couple more seconds just in case. All right, we'll finish with the citizen comments, and we will proceed to the first of the 3 conditional use hearings that we have tonight. Max Chrome of Chrome Architecture, on behalf of Iron Table Holdings, has submitted a conditional use application with a site plan review for a restaurant serving alcohol, entertainment space, and outdoor patio seating at 225 Corey Street. If we could start by turning to Denise Swinger for the staff report.
Okay, Max is on Zoom tonight, and all of the uses that you mentioned are allowed in the B1 district rather than permitted. They're conditional, which is the reason why we have this public hearing tonight. Staff normally follows the interpretation of the zoning code when sending out public notifications to property owners, which is typically to owners of property that's contiguous to or directly across the street from the property. But because of this proposed use and its likely huge economic impact to the benefit of the village, staff decided to broaden the buffer zone. And as you can see on this map, it's not just properties that are contiguous, but it's properties or properties that are directly across the street. But we've pretty much covered the downtown area. Now, these do go to the property owners. They don't go to the individual tenants of these buildings, but all of those people within that buffer zone did receive a public hearing notification. The 225 Corey Street parcel, which was the former fire station, it sits on a little over 1/3 of an acre and is almost entirely covered with impervious surface areas. The building itself, concrete and asphalt, except for a small area at the rear of the building. And this area at the rear of the building next to the bike path is one of the areas that's going to be one of the 2 outdoor patios. And to mitigate the stormwater runoff based on our new mitigation plan, the applicant has proposed replacing the hard surface area at the front of the building with pervious pavers. So that is their mitigation plan for this property. The outdoor patio on the east side next to the Little Miami Scenic Trail will require a 0 lot line variance, much like what we did with the open market eatery at 108 Cliff Street. There's an entrance ramp on the northeast side of the building that's going to connect to the existing paved area for where we have a bicycle parking pad next to the bike path and meeting the ADA requirements for accessibility. The main concern for this use obviously is parking, and Chrome Architecture will provide details for how they intend to handle parking for shows, and have also provided for Planning Commission a traffic analysis done by a qualified traffic engineering firm, LJB, and Dan Hoying of LJB is also present tonight on Zoom if the commission has any questions for him. Noise impacts should be minimal. The building is concrete blocks, and there will be additional insulation materials used. Noise from patrons sitting in the 2 outdoor patio areas, as I described in my report, will be from human conversations. The outdoor patio areas, which will serve as an extension of the restaurant, will be open between the hours of 11 a.m. and 10 p.m. 7 days a week. The other concerns include lighting and signage. A variance to the type and number of signs is going to be required. However, it should be noted that the number of signs is really not more than what you may find along Xenia Avenue, where the buildings, which are close together and in some cases attached, have the individual business signs displayed. As I mentioned in my report, roof signs are prohibited and shall not extend above the roof's height. Mr. Chrome will address this in his presentation with the location of the logo sign. The logo sign is internally illuminated, which is allowed in the B1 district. The lighting that was shown in the renderings is primarily direct cutoff lighting. The tube lighting that is on the building is a low-level LED and will not shine beyond the borders of the property. Unless you have any questions for me, I'd like to turn this presentation over to Max, or he's going to go into much greater detail.
Okay. Susan, did you have a question?
Yes, Denise, I had a question before Max gets started, because this was in one of the letters, that it looks like work has started on the building. Is that permitted to have it done before this hearing?
Work hasn't started on the building, just a fence around it has been prepped.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Max? Oh, you're muted. Oh.
Josue, can you give Max hosting privileges?
I'm done.
Thank you.
You should be able to.
Hey,
go.
hi, gang. Hi, everybody. Max Chrome. Thanks for being here, everybody. I'm really excited about this presentation tonight. Before I get started, I want to shout out some of my folks in California. I see Kara is on the call and Scott is on the call. They've been holding it down for the California practice while I'm out here focusing on these amazing projects in Yellow Springs. Also, I want to thank Dan Hoying who's on the line to answer any questions you might have about the parking and traffic study that was submitted. And then lastly, Josue and Denise, congratulations on getting the building department up and running. I'm really excited about that. I think it's going to make a big difference in how these projects flow through the village. So having said all that, I'd like to share my screen and take you through my presentation. Give me just a moment, folks. Oh, here we go. Sorry, guys. I'm just figuring my computer out here. I got it. Okay. Okay. Let's try this again. Sorry, gang. Okay, here we go. Okay, can everybody see my screen? It's a satellite image of the village.
Yes.
Okay, great. So what you see on your screen here is the location of the firehouse and nearby parking. I want to start out by talking about parking. I'm doing this presentation from Yellow Springs because I really wanted to have a firsthand experience of what people's concerns were. That's why I built the mock-up over the weekend so that I could listen to what people had to say. And one of the main concerns that people had was parking. How are we going to manage the parking? So that's the first thing I'd like to address. And you can see each one of these pins indicates a certain parking in Yellow Springs. And we're going to talk about the traffic study in a moment. But first, I want to talk about the condition of the existing parking at each of these locations. So let's start with the parking lot right at the firehouse. I'm going to show you a series of photographs that were taken at 7 p.m., which is when I anticipate people would be arriving to park in the village for a show. So firehouse, you see this is taken at 7 p.m. It's about a third full. Keith's Alley parking is the next one, approximately about a third full. The village parking lot at the corner of Railroad and Dayton, same thing. John Bryan Center, I would say a little less than a third full. Millworks, again, maybe a quarter full at the most. Okay, sorry, this has nothing to do with my presentation. This is the location of the Children's Community Center. And the reason I am pointing that out is because it's right by this project. And that's where I met my wife. And we got married exactly 24 years ago today. So happy anniversary, sweetie. Back to the presentation. The old Union Schoolhouse is the last place that I'll show you a photograph of the parking. But before I go there, I want to point out the location of the bike path. And you can see how the bike path connects up most of this parking downtown. And I'll be talking with you in a little bit about a separate project that I'm working on a pro bono basis with the village to improve the bike path along this area so that there's a well-lit and safe passage between Millworks and the new club that we're proposing that picks people up, along all this parking, and that I'm hoping that people will use the bike path in order to get to the club. Now, if that's not a practical solution, we will run a shuttle service between the club and 314 Dayton Street, which has adequate parking. And if you want to jump into all the details of that, you can look at the submittal that was submitted along with the traffic report. To put the parking demand in really in a perspective that I think everyone on this Zoom can understand, the Little Art Theater actually has more seats than what we're proposing at this club. And so I don't know if the Little Art Theater would sell out every night like I anticipate that this club will, but it gives you a sense of that we're serving about the same number of people. Okay, so now let me get into the plan itself. This is a site plan of the project. The shuttle would drop people off on the property, so you can see the property actually contains the entire entry on that side is all contained within this same property. So it gives us a really nice place to drop passengers off from the shuttle service. The circulation pattern from the parking lot would be, you see the first turn there gets the people into the eatery, and then the second turn would get people into the club. They're really going to operate as two completely separate businesses. There may be kind of joint events between the two, but in general, they'll be operating as two separate entities. The eatery will be in this section of the building where there's the 3 roll-up doors, and that's supported by outdoor seating. After we put the kitchen in for the eatery, there's not a whole lot of room for seating. We won't have a ton of seating inside the eatery, so it's very important for us to have this outside seating to make it work. The box office will be where you're used to entering the old township offices, that same little area, kind of perfect for a box office. There'll be bathrooms right there next to it. Right past the box office is the foyer where, Dave likes to lock people's phones up when they come. So that's where people get their phones put into their pouch and locked up. And it'll be a merch shop where folks can buy T-shirts and other swag from the shows. And then there's the performance hall. It is a very intimate venue. And I'll show you a little peek inside a little further in the presentation. The rest of it is sort of back of house functions, storage and green room, et cetera. There is a mezzanine at the upper level, which will be used as a control room where we'll have our computers and monitors and all that kind of stuff to control the club. So again, I want to highlight the bike path. You can see that what I'm trying to do is activate the bike path as, I don't look at this as the back of the building. This is not the back of the building. It's the rear entry. It's the back entry. And the idea is to make it lively back there, where, it would be a safe place to be at night. And that's why I'm working with the village to put a proposal together, and we're going to propose to the county and apply for funds to pay for things like garbage cans, lighting, benches, bicycle parking, et cetera, to make that a safe and pleasant stroll from all the way from Yellow Springs Brewery all the way down to the club. And it will be could be a very special part of downtown. Lastly, I want to point out that we do have neighbors right across the street. If you saw the mock-up, you can really see how close we are to them. And although, we may not agree on this club, I did have the opportunity to speak with Betty and Wayne over the weekend, and they were extremely gracious. They invited me into their house and gave me a tour of their beautiful place and showed me the art that Betty does, and it's really wonderful. And I told them I can't make it as if there's not a comedy club across the street from them, but I can do my very best to minimize the impact on them, and that will include things like monitoring their driveway, from our side, keeping a clean site, pushing the sort of as much loading and human activity as we can away from their front door. So those are the types of steps that we're happy to take. And I also let them know that they are free to be in touch with myself and my superintendent, my project manager during construction. They'll have all our numbers so that we can make sure that we take as best care of our neighbors as we can. So moving on here, you guys all recognize this picture. This is what the firehouse has looked like for years. And I just want to point out with this picture, I think it was great as a firehouse, but it's in danger of sort of falling into being another underused resource in this town. And, if there's one thing that ties together all the different projects we're working on, it's the fact that we're taking these existing buildings that are maybe underused or underutilized and bringing them back to, a higher and better use as resources in the community. So I spent some time over the weekend building up a full-scale mock-up. And that was because I want everyone to really get a true sense of what this thing will feel like. This is what it looked like at night, last night, if any of you came by. And then this is my vision of what I think it could look like. And you'll see, where the eatery entry is on the left there in the trellis with the festival lights. And then in the background there, you see the marquee with the entry and the C sign that Denise referred to. Now, there's a question about whether that sign qualifies as a roof sign. And I think kind of the simple answer is it looks like a roof sign, but I would argue that the Planning Commission has the power to decide what is and what isn't a roof sign. I would argue that that's a wall sign. And the reason I argue that is because it's a part of the marquee. The marquee is a part of the building. It's not a sign, it's a marquee. And that is is a part of the shape and structure and the design of the marquee. If you want to talk about the roof, it has a little roof on it. It actually does exist below its roof. So I think there are grounds to approve it on the basis of it being a wall sign. And I just want to point out, it is essential to the quality of the project. It's essential for people to see from the intersection at Dayton and Corey where the club is. That's just, it's absolutely essential to the project. So I want to show you the next image. This is where the entry into the eatery would be. So you can see in there where the eatery would be on the left-hand side and the club on the right-hand side. This is what that looked like at night last night. And this is my vision of what we can make it look like. Moving on, this is towards the entry, as you queue up, this is where people will queue up towards under the marquee and towards the box office. This is what it looked like last night. And this is the artistic rendering of it with a place to put up posters of shows and coming attractions. And one thing that I think is cool about the name of the club, Firehouse, obviously the genesis of that name's pretty obvious, but also kind of the subtitle of Live from YS is really talking about where we are. So here's some other images, some renderings. It shows you the overview. You could see the patio area that Denise was talking about where the permeable pavers are. I envisioned fire pits out there. I thought that went great with the idea of firehouse, fire pits. It really brings some liveliness to that area. And you'll notice that the lighting is, what I'm trying to do with the lighting is keep it very low. So my lighting scheme is really based on this bollard light design. And so those are the black lights that you see. They're low. They come up to maybe 48 inches. And to light the entire project up with those kind of lights. And we're not trying to be seen from outer space. We really just want to have enough light for people to safely navigate around. We really want kind of a fun, festive nighttime mood, which to us is not overly lit. There's the backside where you could see sort of how the back patio works, its relationship to the bike path. Going for really kind of a different vibe on the back. You could see the logo and the treatment is different on the back from the bike path. I think there's an opportunity to do something just a little funkier, a little more kind of showing off what the building originally was. And so I'm proposing that we show off the original concrete block there. And we'd only do that for about half. The other half of the building is a beautiful spot for a mural. And something that I think would really go nicely there. So this is the view sort of from ground level. And there you can see some of the lighting that I'm talking about fading off into the background, creating a safe, well-lit path. We will have, cameras pointing out this direction. I know one of the concerns that came up from the Glen when I met with Nick from the Glen was that there's activities happening back there, people jumping the fence and things going on back there that are not desirable for the Glen. There's animals that get to the garbage and drag that into the Glen. So I think one of the things we could do to be a good neighbor with the Glen is to, again, working with the village and the county to create funds to improve the fence between the bike path and the Glen there. And of course, we'll be monitoring that and we'll have an increased police presence there as well. So, okay, I've kind of gotten to the end of the describing the building. So I'm just going to leave you all with a little bit of a video fly through. And so here we are kind of coming from the front side of the building, rotating around the back. And you can see this lucky family back here is getting their picture taken at what will surely be a landmark restaurant, a landmark club. This will be a kind of place that people will be talking about all over the world. It'll be something that people will come to visit all over the world. What you're reviewing here is much more than a comedy club. It's a landmark, and what we're presenting is a landmark. Here's a little peek inside. Usually you don't show a planning commission the inside, but I thought I'd share this. You can see how intimate a space it is, very small. And here we are kind of going along Corey Street along the front, people outside enjoying a nice dinner. These guys getting their Instagram photograph taken. You see all these wonderful artists that work with Dave. And speaking of the wonderful artists that work with Dave, you could see on those posters, Dave doesn't do all this alone. It's Dave Chappelle, and I put the words "and friends" up there because of the people that surround Dave, the creative energy that happens in this town. It's not just this club isn't just for Dave. It's for this amazing group of incredibly talented people. And having said all that, I'd like to ask Dave to say a couple words.
Hey, everybody. Good evening. First of all, Max, that was great. It was very exciting.
Thank you.
I just wanted to say that when I started in New York City, I played a legendary comedy club, still exists. It's called the Comedy Cellar. This club is only 115 seats. Some of the greatest names that have ever existed in stand-up comedy have played and do play that club. And no matter what building you're in, it always depends on what culture you curate to fill the building. Here in Yellow Springs with me this weekend is the hip hop director of the Kennedy Center in Washington, D.C. I'm here this weekend with Talib Kweli, who's my partner in my podcast and also one of the most renowned artists in hip hop in the world. If we build this thing, I'm telling you that all the greats will come. They're very excited about it. And many of whom have been here from last summer and previous times, are enamored with Yellow Springs. This is a culture that I think they would be very invested in preserving and even adding to, in the best case scenario. I think that the culture of this town is something of global import. I think that the way that we treat each other in our community is an example for the rest of the country, which is being torn asunder culturally. This is a culture war. And I believe that this club would put us in a position to help everyone be inspired to put their best foot forward. You would be amazed, some of the people who come through Yellow Springs. When Carlos Santana was here, Carlos Santana, the famed alumni of Woodstock, his wife is actually from Yellow Springs. And she plays with, Lenny Kravitz and a lot of other great musicians that I know. Everybody that I speak to has expressed interest in coming and performing it. So I don't want you to think because the size of the venue that big artists won't come. It's not how many seats there are, it's the size of the event. It's the size of what we are offering the culture at large. And I feel like this would be a wonderful, wonderful place to do that from. And I know that there's a lot of local talent here who try to climb the ladder that I climbed. And sadly, in Ohio, these ladders too often stop abruptly, that you can't pursue all of your interests to completion from a place like this. But I feel like if we had a venue like this, if you were an aspiring artist, if you were able to see the best entertainment available in the world in your hometown and were able to even perform on that stage, there's a lot of people who may not otherwise been able to make it out of here. Good. I'm not just trying to make a club. I'm trying to make a way. I'm trying to make a venue for our talents to be showcased, as well as my friends' talents, so that we can shine and be, all the great things that we hope to be in the world. That's all I wanted to say. And I really appreciate your consideration. And I hope that you are amenable to this. Thank you. Oh, and with me now Tyler Qualley, you want to say anything?
Sure. Hello, how y'all doing? First, I want to say I appreciate you letting me speak as an outsider to this community. I'm humbled, I'm honored by this opportunity. Greene County is my last name is Greene, spelled with an E, just like how y'all do it here, so I already feel at home. I come from a family of educators. I own a bookstore, so to come to a place with so many bookstores has always made me feel at home. To come to a place that's the home of Virginia Hamilton is very exciting for me because the stories that she painted for me as a child gave me an idea of what a community really could be. And so when I picture in my head the perfect version of a community, I was picturing Yellow Springs, Ohio, and I didn't even know that. Since I've been hanging out here, I've learned the history of the Conway colony and of Gaunt Park. And Yellow Springs has always been a place that has championed and supported people going through struggle. It's not just one of the most progressive and welcoming places in the world, in Ohio, but it's one of the most progressive, welcoming places I've ever seen in the whole world. Performers like myself have to come to Ohio, but the vibe in Yellow Springs is more artist friendly than anywhere in Ohio that I've ever been. In the spirit of the phrase, everything is local. Beyond being an icon, Dave has been a leader, and because of his desire to bring resources back to the community that raised him, he's inspired me greatly. This event space, hopefully, can be about professional artists doing professional work. It's not about partying or trying to change the vibe of the town. It's only to add to and enhance the vibe of the town. I've spent the last year hanging out here. This town has shown me personally a lot of love, and I look forward to possibly adding more to your wonderful, beautiful community. Thank you for embracing me in your home, and I appreciate you. Peace.
Okay, thank you so much, Paulie. Thank you. I wanted to mention one other thing just about the local aspect of this town. I've arranged to have not a local general contractor, an Ohio general contractor who I've worked with nationally. But the subcontractors, Dave has asked me to use as much local talent as is possible. So the framing, the sheetrock, the plumbing, et cetera, we're going to look for local talent, Yellow Springs if possible, Greene County if not, and we'll move out from there. And, all part of kind of the bigger vision, that Denise mentioned in her staff report, that projects in this particular district should in particular seek to employ villagers. And that's what we're going to do during the construction, and that's what we're going to do during the operation of the club. So with that, I'm going to conclude this portion of our presentation, and we'll stand by for any questions from the Planning Commission or to respond to any concerns from citizens. And I'll return, I don't know how to return hosting privileges. Josue, maybe you could help me with that.
I think you just have to sort of unmute yourself.
Just or mute my.
We'll take it from here.
Okay, thank you very much for the presentation, for everybody who spoke. Do any members of the Planning Commission at this point have any questions for Denise and the staff report or for Max regarding their report? Susan.
My question has to do with the outdoor eating in the front. Then I'm wondering, is there any way, because I'm thinking of Betty and Wayne, and I'm sure that there are other houses there behind, but I'm wondering, is there any way to sort of minimize the sound in perhaps the way that you're designing it? I appreciate that they will only be open till 10. So hopefully that will help. But I just wondered, is there any way to minimize sound?
Yeah. Max, would you like to speak to that? Okay. Oh, Max, you're muted. Can we get Max unmuted, please?
Okay, there we go. Okay, there we go. Thank you. The main thing that we can do for Betty and Wayne, I think we've done, which is to move the outdoor seating absolutely as far away from their front door on the front side as we can. So I've pushed it all the way towards the subway for that very reason. You know, that was even before I did this mock-up, I had considered that, and I thought that would be the appropriate place for the seating, as opposed to where we have the people queuing up. We could have flipped it, but so we've done that. It is an open air. It is an open air environment. So, you know, it really is just about the human voice. We won't be doing amplified music out on that patio area, at least not above, you know, normal speaking decibels that are required by the village ordinance. And we'll work with them to, you know, if it does become a nuisance, we'll work with them to try to police it as best we can. I think that's the best we can do. I don't know if there's a design solution that mitigates the sound, but, you know, I'd be happy to inquire with a acoustical engineer and see if maybe there's some kind of treatment on the wall that would benefit. I'm not sure.
Thank you. Any questions or concerns from any other members of Planning Commission at this point?
Denise, can you address the options for the, I'm sorry, Frank.
No,
Denise,
that's all right.
Could you address the options or considerations we can do for the roof sign, or not roof sign, whatever we want to call it?
So the roof sign, you know, is you cannot have a sign on top of the roof, and this is not actually going to be located on top of the roof. It's actually on the marquee. It might project a little bit higher. There's other things you could do, creating a wall on the roof. I mean, you know, is that really necessary? I think this is such a unique project. Do we really want to make them have to go that extra mile?
That was my question. If that's, you know, if all that would satisfy it would just be putting a wall up there.
I know. I mean, if there's a will, there's a way, but, you know.
Okay.
I mean,
Okay.
So, Denise, can you clarify what exactly needs conditional approval? I mean, being in the central business district, obviously a lot of things are, you know, are permitted. So what is it that they're actually asking for that isn't permitted?
Change of use.
Well, conditional only means that the people that surround that area that might have concerns with impacts. And so you look at things like hours of operation and noise and traffic, and, you know, those issues have been addressed. And there might be some more questions for Dan Hoying. But it's just an opportunity for people to at least say, well, if you are going to approve this, could we at least have this condition put on that?
Well, and then in addition to that, because the building is changing its use, right? From what it was before.
I mean, yeah, but the type of use that it's changing to, a restaurant serving alcohol, that's conditional. The outdoor patio seating connected with the alcohol establishment requires a conditional use. Same with like a performance hall. So
and you mentioned,
you know, if they were straight out permitted, I just would sign off on the zoning and they would be good to go. Conditional, they need to come to the planning commission just to give people an opportunity to weigh in. But it's still an allowed use. It's not prohibited.
any other members of Planning Commission have any questions or concerns at this point? I know I would like to hear from, is it Dan Hoying? I hope I pronounced your name correctly, specifically regarding the traffic impact study that was done. I have a couple of questions about that. Okay. Hi, Dan. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. And in addition to myself with LJB, I have one of our traffic engineers, Tom Flask, is on this call as well. So.
Okay. Yeah, if you could, I think what would be helpful for me and perhaps helpful for other people as well is just give sort of a clear, simple description of the process for doing the traffic impact study, methodology, how it was done, why you chose the numbers you did, that sort of thing, that I think speak to some of the concerns that have been raised regarding the traffic study.
Yeah, sure. Great. So we worked with Chrome on the plan, and the number of trips that are anticipated were all provided as part of their early work and included in the submittal. Traffic counts were collected using MyVision cameras at the intersection as well as across the street from the project. And then we turned the data over to our traffic engineers to select the hours that we felt would be most appropriate to review. Obviously, with the evening use of this, that's a little untypical for the traffic analysis. And so I guess at this point, really to get the clearest answer on the methodology, Tom, you've run all the numbers on this. Are you able to, if we're unable to mute Tom Flask, I think he would be the one to be able to best speak to how we got to the results.
Okay, thanks, Dan. So we looked at Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, did traffic counts on those evenings from 5 to 10 each evening. And we just did what standard procedure is to pick sort of the busiest hour in that time. And that turned out to be between 5 and 6 p.m. on Friday. I know that that's about an hour before the operations of the club would start. But to sort of give the best basis and to pick the busiest time that we would put that traffic on top of, we picked that time. And then we used the methodology from this group called ITE, the Institute of Transportation.
If I could interrupt you a second. So the idea of peaking, selecting the numbers from that peak hour and then putting the estimated traffic from the club on top of that, that's to give kind of a worst case scenario.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had, assuming that the restaurant and the club were both operating at once, okay. And that everyone was sort of coming in that hour.
Right. Okay.
And so we used that the trip generation manual, which is the standard procedure to get numbers, which brought us to about 100 trips in that hour between the venue use and the restaurant use. And so then we looked at the intersection, we call it background traffic, how the intersection that Corey and Xenia operates without any of the venue traffic, and it's fine. It's at a level of service C. And we added on the venue traffic for the site. And it continued to operate at actually the same level of service with just a small amount of delay. We then took that traffic and decided and looked at the different directions where people could come from and where they might go based on where the parking is, and split that up, and based on the number of parking spaces, how many would go in each direction, and adding in all of those turns and the shuttle, there was still plenty of capacity at the intersection.
Tom, I've got to jump in here with some questions with respect to, you're giving the methodology for this report, but because it's a traffic study, do you believe this traffic study that LBJ did was something that could have been done by the average lay person with or without your type of expertise or education?
No, I wouldn't say so. I think there's a specific methodology that you should follow on these.
Okay. So how long have you been employed by your firm?
I've been at my firm for 2.5 years, and then at a different firm 7 years before that.
Okay. And what's your official title?
I'm a transportation engineer and NEPA specialist. That's National Environmental Policy Act.
Okay. And what's your educational background?
I have a master's. I have a master's degree in civil engineering from the University of Akron, and I'm a registered professional engineer in Ohio, and I'm also a certified professional traffic operations engineer.
Okay. With that, if the Planning Commission is so willing, they can say that
do you have a title, Mr. Flask? Could be qualified as an expert witness for his traffic engineering.
Good. Do any other members of the Planning Commission have any questions for Dan or Tom regarding the traffic flow? Not seeing anything. Okay. Yeah, I don't have any other questions about the traffic study at this point as well. Thank you very much for your information. You guys could hang around, please, just in case. Okay. Max, did you have something you wanted to add? Okay, yes.
I wanted to take the opportunity, actually, Dave wanted to introduce a friend, another person who would like to say a word or two.
Hey guys, this is the guy I was talking about. He is the director of hip hop at the Kennedy Center in Washington. His name is Kamal Fareed. He's also a founding member of the rap group A Tribe Called Quest, and in artistic circles is renowned as one of the best music producers literally ever. So here he is.
That's such a sweet intro. Hello, everybody. How's everybody doing? You good? Nod your head if you're muted. Everybody on 3, 1, 2, 3. You good? Good. I just, New York City boy, and just coming here today and walking along, Springs and seeing a lot of the developments just going on and learning some of the history and seeing, a lot of the fruits of you guys' labor. As somebody from New York, which I guess is what they call the satellite city to the world in terms of how much commerce and activity is aggregated there. The future here seems really bright, and I'm flattered and humbled that my good boy, my brother Dave, had the kind of foresight to kind of replant his seeds of his history here, and we're also happy for him to want to be able to fuel this community with, this great degree of arts and commerce and discovery here. One of the reason why I guess I come into play here is because one of the, as I'm sure you all know, one of the aspects of the builds is a recording studio. I'm sorry?
They don't know about that.
They don't?
No, that's another.
We don't know.
No, but it's
Wrong
still
meeting.
no. I hope I didn't stick them up, but no, but honestly, just being transparent, that's one of the things that I saw that I'm personally taking, interest in with helping Dave along with some of my engineers that I work with back home to develop something that would be a conduit for a lot of the artistic community to come here, to visit, to stay, to create, to live, and to commune and to interact with a lot of the people here and to kind of enrich it. So I just wanted to just, in good faith, say to all of you that you will be seeing more of me or feeling me here as we begin to start that journey. And I just wanted you to know that Dave has great reach, as I'm sure you all know, but he's somebody that I've known for pretty much 30 years. It feels like 30 years, right? And I'm excited about, being able to come here and, just add another hue to what you're painting here. So I just wanted to say that in good faith. And I'm looking forward to, when COVID, in the world of COVID calms down, that we could do the best thing that we could all do as people, and just see each other and say hey to each other. And, you know, you guys could put some eyes and hands on the whole beautiful compound that we're going to do. So I just wanted to say that and let you guys see my face and say, hey, before I scoot off, and I'm famished to get something to eat. So, but I just wanted to say that to everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So much, Timmy.
Bring it back to Planning Commission. Are there any additional questions or concerns that anybody has for Max and his team or for Denise before we open the public hearing?
So I had a question for Max. The outdoor eating part, does it have a roof over it? Is it going to be out of the rain?
Yeah. It's a trellis, but the idea is that it's a convertible trellis. So the plan is to have it be both an open air and a closed roof. So they make these kind of fancy trellises that can close on themselves and create a waterproof surface. And, you know, and then we'd put heaters underneath as well, where, you know, it may not be 4 seasons, but we're going to try to make it as usable as we can for most of the year by putting sort of this convertible roof idea on it.
Okay. And how many actual seats are inside in the restaurant?
Well, it's a good question. The exact calculations are in your packet. I don't remember the exact numbers, but the number of seats inside is pretty limited. It's in like the 20s or 30s. Maybe Denise can answer from what our calculations are. And that's why the outdoor patios are so important. By the time you get a kitchen in there and various bathrooms and back of house needs, there's not a whole lot of room for a dining room. And I mean, there is a dining room, but it's small. And the precise layout of the restaurant is not defined yet. But there is a maximum count just based on its square footage and what the code will allow.
Okay, thanks.
Thank you. Any other questions or concerns right now?
This is Laura Curlis. I have a concern. Sorry about my dog. I have a concern about lighting in general, because the impact of all the beautiful lights, and they are beautiful, can be pretty significant on the neighbors. And I guess I understand that downward directional and 90-degree cutoff lighting is going to be used as much as possible. I would just ask a special consideration from staff and Max to please really look at making it as soft as possible. And the bollard lighting, I made the same request when the new fire station was built, and I wish that the bollard lighting were not as bright as it is. That bollard lighting can be pretty bright and outward directional. So have a look at the new fire station and see what they put there. That's not my idea of downward directional and soft lighting. So I just think it can have a really big impact and make it brighter than it needs to be. And finally, on that point, we know that lighting has an impact on wildlife and birds in particular. So, and I understand it's a nightclub, so it needs to be lit up. But just ask for consideration about that. Thank you very much.
If I may respond, I think that's a very valid concern. And if you've been observing my work here over the last several weeks, you may have noticed that I think, experimenting with lighting is critical to the success of a project, what it looks like and how it actually presents at night. So, we can do all kinds of studies up front and I can make these pretty renderings, but that's not reality. In order to really get it right, you just have to light it up at night. You have to put in the time and go out there and shine lights on it in different ways at different angles. And we're fortunate where we are in the technology of lighting in this day and age, the advances in LED lights, how they can be dimmed, and the energy efficiency of them, et cetera, has come just leaps and bounds in the 30 years of my career. What I'm getting at is that is absolutely something I would give close consideration to. The bollard lights can be, sized, the size of the bulbs can be sized properly. And that's what we'll work on. We're not just going to pick one out of a catalog. We're going to try probably 4 or 5 different versions and figure out what works. And, I'll take Betty and Wayne's comments into serious consideration.
Okay, thank you. Any other planning commission questions or concerns at this point? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing on this conditional use. And so if there's any members of the public, I see somebody waving already, so who would like to speak, please either raise your hand, make yourself noticed, or use the raise your hand button on your computer screen, and we'll try to make sure that everybody gets a chance to speak. And we're asking people to try to limit their comments to 3 minutes or less if you can. So who's first? Is it up here? I think you're still muted. I'm not sure who's doing that.
Me?
Yeah, there we go.
Hello? You hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Hello, my name is Issa Walker, longtime resident here, raised here. My parents both went to Antioch. My dad graduated from Antioch College. My mother got a master's degree at McGregor. Both of them very involved in the community. So that's a part of the community that I'm very much into because of my background. As a younger person from this village, I see this as a great opportunity for the growth of a younger, more diverse culture, which is a huge aspect of our community that I see dwindling over the years. Also, it's an opportunity for economic growth within this community, as it will create more jobs, especially for younger people who come back from college in the summer, who are often looking for work. They won't have to leave the village to find work. I also feel like this village is in much need of quality entertainment and more opportunities for artists to express themselves. Culture is what makes us unique from surrounding areas, and this will only nurture and enhance it. I believe it encapsulates all of these aspects in one. I believe this will help all the businesses in town, and so I see it as a win-win for everybody. I attribute a lot of my personal success as an artist to the relationships that I have built in this village, and I believe that this will only increase these opportunities for other local artists like myself. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Thank you.
Yep, thank you, Isa. I think, is it Betty and Wayne? Could we get them unmuted, please? We're working on getting you unmuted up there.
Okay,
there we go.
Looks like I am. Well, yes. I'm the one of the ones y'all have been talking about all night. My name is Betty Kelly. For the past 30 years, my husband Wayne Goulden and I have lived across from the former fire station and wish to continue living here into the future. Today's proposed project initially created a lot of concerns, as noted in my written statement. After Max voluntarily came to speak with us on Sunday, most of my concerns have been allayed. He also assured us his future willingness to address problems with the goal of finding mutual accommodations. I also want to acknowledge his thoughtful design that not only makes a good use of the existing structure, but was crafted to have the least amount of impact on us, and for that, I like to thank them publicly. Personally, I want all businesses to succeed so that we can remain a community. At times, this means accommodation. In 30 years, we've only had 2 serious issues, and both of them were amiably resolved. It takes a lot of accommodation to live downtown behind a lot of businesses. My remaining concern is, of course, parking, and I know that Max addressed it. The staff sees no parking problems because they state there are 3 municipal lots available. Dayton Street, which is 2 blocks away, Corey Street, and Keith's Alley. What they fail to recognize is that Corey Street and Keith's Alley lots are currently heavily used by everyone patronizing downtown Yellow Springs. My fear is that Dave's patrons will not use the available shuttle, will fill up the adjacent lot, leaving the other businesses patrons with no options. Let's face it, Americans are lazy. They want to get in their cars, drive to their event, park as close as possible, and not take a bus. Then, FYI, in the winter, Keith's Alley is not plowed. What you have are icy ruts created from delivery trucks. Will Corey Street remain a plowing priority since the fire station has moved? The bike path is also not plowed. Sidewalk usage is iffy. The Beatty Hughes sidewalks is sometimes plowed by the village, but Cannon's property is never shoveled, and we stopped shoveling after the snowplow repeatedly filled the sidewalk back up. So if you're going to park somewhere else, you're not going to be able to walk down here. Let me reiterate, I do want Dave to be successful. I think this would be an interesting asset for the village, but the parking issue needs to be resolved. If his plans are approved as stated and there are future problems, is there any kind of recourse? Thank you.
Thank you very much, Betty. Anybody else? Who else? Are there other people who wanted to speak? I see Jamie Sharp. I'm just looking at my screen and picking people out here as best I can. So Jamie, unmuted.
Good evening, everybody. I'm here tonight representing the Downtown Business Association of Yellow Springs and its 73 members, all downtown business owners. And just really quickly, because we're a new group, so you understand who we are. This is a group that formed during the 2020 COVID shutdown. And we came together to build a community to help save our businesses and help save our downtown. And in the process, we realized that we needed to become a cohesive voice that advocated for the concerns of the downtown business district. And we have defined that as the zone central business district and millworks. So we have 73 business owners from that area that are all talking and communicating and building a community like we haven't had before. We realized the need to better represent ourselves and our specific concerns to the chamber, village government, and the wider community. And now that we're organized, we're ready to participate in solutions that support our businesses, like getting involved with local leadership, developing collaborations with the area organizations, examining issues related to tourism and infrastructure, finding a group voice and identity to strengthen our relationships with the local community, and marketing and targeting visitors in a way to help control crowds in tourism. So we posted a survey to the group Facebook page for the Downtown Business Association to gauge how business owners are feeling about the comedy club project. And I'm happy to report that there was a resounding, unanimous support of the club. Everybody's very excited about it. And I just wanted to share a couple of comments from the discussion that came up. Here's one. I support any local business in town that brings nice people to us. And I think Dave's trying to help rebuild the village. We all need to support each other. Here's another one. Really looking forward to the opening of the comedy club. It will add a level of inclusion to this town that has been sorely missing. I want this town to look and feel like it did when I was growing up here, and people from all different backgrounds lived and worked here to create a loving, strong, diverse community. This is genuinely a remarkable opportunity to really build something unique and special. We have front row seats to see Dave bring world-class entertainment. This privilege is generally reserved for large metropolitan areas like New York and LA, but we will get this right here in rural Ohio. Another one, for those of us who grew up here, we come back to own businesses and contribute because of an era that was foundational in our upbringing. We all want to move wildly forward and at the same time return yet YS to what we know it really is. This is our moment to achieve that. Here's another, our customer base will grow, as will the disposable income they bring into our businesses. We're in charge of giving people a good reason to come back to Yellow Springs before, during, and after experiencing one of Dave's shows. We take care of that, and there will be a never-ending stream of income for all parties involved. And the final one is, I think it's an important component to future growth in the village. I think we're on a great track. Let's keep pushing for what we need. So as a group, we're all very excited about the opportunities and possibilities this project is bringing to us, and we're really happy to welcome Dave into our business community. Any concerns that were expressed weren't specific to this project and mostly echo a lot of what's been said. We want to make sure, as on a global level, that we're taking a strategic high-level view of managing growth and assuring we have the infrastructure to support it. And so parking was a common cry. And I wanted to let you know that
we did the 3-minute time limit. So I'm going to ask you to try to wrap it up.
Okay, well, the downtown merchants are submitting a letter this week with specific parking requests and suggestions to Village Council. And just on a personal level, I'm really impressed with all the thought and concern that's going into this project and its larger impact on our community and what it means for all of us. So we're all super excited, recognize this as a really unique opportunity for us, and are excited to see this move forward.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
Who else? Is it Jill? Can we get yeah, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yeah. Great. Well, I just wanted to make it known that I am a recent homeowner here. We just moved to the village. I have children in the schools, and the reason we picked this community was because of its like-mindedness. So I just wanted to say that our family is super excited about the possibility of Dave's Comedy Club, because what he said on the meet just when he was speaking was that it could be a global beacon, because the reason that we chose to move to Yellow Springs from Cincinnati was because of the community, because of what we've heard about the community and the like-mindedness and the inclusivity. And so just that could actually be seen all around the country, a spotlight on Yellow Springs as, hey, this is a progressive place to live and you're safe here. And I think that's a wonderful message. So I just really appreciate all the effort and all the activities surrounding the new club. And I think also the advent possibly for new artists to spring up through the club. You know, you're coming to a club that is very, accepting and loving and supportive. So I just wanted to say, as a new member of the community, we are 100%, 200% supportive. So thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you, Jill. Anybody else I see? Is it Mark?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
I wanted to say that Max, I really appreciated that sign and your sentiment about it being Dave Chappelle and Friends. And the reason that I say that is during this period of COVID, not only did Dave bring us a whole lot of business, he brought a lot of his friends to town. And as a result of that, I've got Michelle Wolf living literally next door to me. When Donnell Rawlings was convalescing during his bout of COVID in Austin, he would call and we would chat all the time. These are people who are becoming a part of the fabric of our community. And I appreciate it. And it certainly is a much more diverse fabric than we've seen in a while. So I just want to say I not only appreciate the business opportunity that's coming for us, for my daughter and I in Yellow Springer Teas, but also I appreciate the fact that it's really adding to the culture and the feeling of community that we have here.
Thank you, Mark. I'm looking around at my screen, see if anybody else is waving up. I see Luke.
Thanks, Frank.
Hi, everybody. I'm Luke Dennis. I'm the station manager at WISO, and I've lived here for 15 years in the village. And I actually prepared a statement because 3 minutes goes quickly.
It does.
Yeah, and I'll keep it moving. I think Dave is investing in the cultural vitality of our village. Culture has always been the currency of Yellow Springs. Growing up in rural Clinton County, I recognize that, and I've always felt connected to this place, not to the small-minded culture of Wilmington where I was born, but to the creative and welcoming culture that I saw here. But what I didn't know as a kid when I was visiting here in the 80s and 90s was that Yellow Springs was really running on the fumes of the counterculture that was so dominant here in the 60s, thanks to Antioch College. And that Yellow Springs in some ways had become a parody of itself. And today it's still running on those fumes. And today still the only people wearing tie-dyed shirts are the tourists, right? So we have an opportunity to inject a fresh new vitality into our town. There is a passing of the baton that's happening right now. A handful of wealthy, elderly white men are no longer the dominant property owners in this town. Dave and his real estate investments are one piece of this new vitality. For another example, just read the front page of the Yellow Springs News last week. Look at the dynamic young people who are running for council. They want to serve this community that they love. And it's obvious to me that Dave loves this community too, and that he wants to serve it. I've heard him speak wistfully about the Yellow Springs that he knew as a kid. It was a place of cultural vitality, a place where interesting conversations were happening on every street corner. And of course, they were coming out of every building on the Antioch campus. But we can't hold our breath and wait any longer for Antioch to rise from the ashes, right? I mean, I hope that it will. I really hope that it will. But regardless, we, the residents, the people who live here now, we can band together now and create the future village that we want. And the currency of our stronger, more diverse town will be culture, right? And that's what Dave's Firehouse Project represents. His comedy club will be a place where comedians and other artists will dissect our society and point to solutions through laughter. I understand that the firehouse is located in the central business district, which is zoned B1, which I guess I understand is where cultural uses are permitted and encouraged. What an excellent cultural use Dave is proposing. I think we have a remarkable opportunity before us today, and I urge you to approve it. And I realize now I'm just adding my voice to the chorus, but really happy to express my support, and I appreciate the time. Thanks, Frank.
Good. Thank you, Luke. Let's see, Lisa.
Thank you. So Nate Cornett, Lisa Walters with Yellow Springs Brewery. And a lot of you folks know here that we had some interest in the building at one point in time, but I would like to publicly say that I honestly can't think of a better use for this space at this point in time. And we'll be super proud to support this. And we too appreciate the business opportunity that comes along with this. That is not unnoticed by us. So thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Lisa. Jim Johnson. Have to get you unmuted here. Oh, you're still muted. There we go.
Okay.
There we are.
I would just like to offer my support for the comedy club and thank Dave for investing. I would like to remind people that there used to be an opera house right downtown on Dayton Street. It was torn down in the early 60s. It was a loss. My father used to come to the opera house to see performances, and he lived in Miamisburg. He used to park in front of the house I now live. If anybody remembers, it's on the corner of Winter and Dayton Street. It got torn down. That's a loss, and I think this is a replacement for a venue that we have lost, and I support the effort, and I want to thank Dave and his team for doing what they're doing.
Thank you, Jim. Anybody else? Is it Lindsay? Get you. There we are.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hello, I'm Lindsay Burke. I'm running for Village Council. I'm one of those young folks that you spoke of. A single parent in the village and a business owner. So I'm wearing a lot of hats tonight, and I just wanted to say that most of my material has already been spoken, but I wanted to express my tremendous thanks to Dave and to Max for contributing their incredible talent, and for being generous with this town and for giving us opportunities that we could not even conceive of otherwise. I think that the comedy club is going to bring good jobs that will lead the people that work them, even just in the eatery or even the most basic jobs in the club are going to lead people to better careers in the future. I think this plan celebrates what makes us great as a village. It continues our investment in the arts and culture and innovation, and I'm really looking forward to it, and I couldn't be more supportive. So again, thank you to Dave and to Max for your generosity. And I urge the Planning Commission to approve this plan. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Lindsay. Is it Wayne? Did you have your hand up again? Okay. Hi. Get you unmuted here.
Oh,
there we are.
There we go. My name's Wayne Gould, and I'm the other half of Betty Kelly. My wife and I own and live in the house directly across the street, as you've heard many times, from the proposed restaurant and club. Our overriding goal is to be able to continue living in our house where we've been for 30 years. Close behind that goal, though, is to live in a thriving, interesting community, of which businesses like this are a significant part. I understand that the commission has to follow a set of standards, and the report generally indicates that these standards have been met. I also understand that we live in a B1 business district and have to accept some amount of nuisance. Coming back to this project, our concerns are the typical ones: lights, noise, general nuisance, congestion. Congestion revolves around traffic and parking. Let me go through each of these just to give you some sense of where we stand. After talking with Mr. Chrome, I'm hopeful that the lights from the venue itself will not be a problem. Might be wrong, but I don't think they are. Lights from cars looking for parking could well be, though. We do have that problem. And noise is still a concern. The report states that it mostly will be outdoor patrons of the restaurant, which in itself to us is a minor concern. Perhaps more importantly to us is the traffic noise, especially late at night. Everybody leaving the club at 2 a.m., example. General nuisance is still a concern. Some of this might come from the happy and tipsy patrons returning to their cars. Some of this might come from the hangers-on, of which there's a fair number in this town. Traffic is still a concern, both from the restaurant and the club. The traffic study was done to check off that requirement, but that study is useless from any practical standpoint. To me, a large part of the traffic problems will be a consequence of the parking problems. As people pull up to the front of the thing, they can't find a parking spot, they go looking. And that's going to cause, to me, huge problems. I don't know any way to model that, by the way. Parking, of course, is our largest concern, and it will inevitably contribute to every other one of our concerns. First, the restaurant. The report says it requires 64 spaces. I think it's probably a bit high. They'll inevitably try to park at the Corey Street parking lot, which is already heavily used. The pictures you showed, Max, are nice, but during a shutdown of the Little Art and the Wynn's Cafe, they're not really very indicative of what really happens here when things get going again. Second, the club. The report says they'll need 30 spaces. By my lights, there's 100 patrons or so. They'll drive 50 cars. They'll be coming and going to different shows 3 times a night, maybe. So you're getting 100 spaces, not 30. And potentially more than 100 if they, in fact, hang around town like we'd like to think they would. Two quick ideas. First off, incenting the patrons to use the shuttle somehow. We've already talked about that. And the second one is that maybe do a package deal with the hotel. And, work a deal so they park there as opposed to parking, trying to park downtown. If a majority of the patrons first try to park at the venue, it's going to turn into a boondoggle. It just will.
And you are at 3 minutes. Thank you.
Okay, and that's it. This has been the briefest recaps. Submitted longer write-ups, Tricia knows, and I'll be available for other stuff if you need to talk to me. Thank you much.
Yeah, and your letters are part of the official record as well. So okay,
that's good. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Is it Valerie?
Yeah. I don't know. Yes. Hi. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I did not prepare anything. I just wanted to throw out comments and questions while I was listening tonight. First of all, I will completely reinforce all of the positive comments I've heard tonight. I think this is a terrific idea. And I want to add, for one important reason, I spent a lot of time at comedy clubs in Los Angeles and San Diego. I even hosted an event at a comedy club as a fundraiser, a stand-up show, because this is a cultural opportunity for storytelling. And that is something that I see extremely important and relevant in Yellow Springs, where we embrace the history. And this venue, this platform, whether it's stand-up, whether it's musician, whether anything, whoever's on stage, we need the storytelling because our storytelling culture has completely collapsed. It used to be around a campfire, and now it's just television, movie. For sure, I embrace the little art theater. So throwing that idea out there, we will have a greater dynamic depth and breadth into our souls because of this event space. My questions are, and so first of all, before the question, I want to reinforce what Laura Curlis said. I'm very concerned about the lights and how they will affect the birds and the moths in particular that are in Glen Helen, anywhere else. I am sure, as Matt said earlier, this can also be handled easily. I just want to express that as a person interested in sustainability, we need to take care of that. And the next point is simply, Max, is it possible that we could do a LEED certified building? It's a renovation, a retrofit, but could we do this? It would make it even cooler for the world, for the glory of Yellow Springs, what Yellow Springs represents. We are a National Wildlife Federation certified wildlife habitat community. We want to keep doing this. Let's make this building LEED certified at the level that it possibly can be. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Valerie. Is it Dino? You have your hand up?
Hi, guys. I just want to say a couple things from a business standpoint. Dino's Cappuccinos is right around the corner from the fire department. So 7 to 10 o'clock, our business is always dropped off. This opportunity is going to afford us, from a business standpoint, and all the businesses that remain open late, is going to give us an economic boon in that respect alone. Lastly, I want to say, what has come from this, from what Dave doing everything that he's done, is that we've built a community of friends and family. I've gotten to meet people. You've gotten to grow with them. You've gotten to understand them, and they become part of my family, and I've become part of them. That's important, and that's a great facet that has been brought to us, and will be brought to our community. Thanks for your time. Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. And just a reminder, for if people could mute themselves again so we don't get feedback on the microphones. Anybody else wants to speak on this? I think Lindsay?
She's already spoken.
Oh.
Sorry, there's one thing I wanted to add that I didn't.
Very briefly, if you can.
Very briefly, I just wanted to say thank you to Max because on this and other projects that he's been a part of, I appreciate the transparency and the desire to work with neighbors and to be as accommodating of natural resources and to respect the history of the village. So I wanted to make sure that is a narrative as well. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
And just in general, when people are commenting, you must address your comments to the Planning Commission only. Thank you.
Is there anybody else who has not had an opportunity to speak who would like to speak on this? I don't know, Judy, are you seeing any other hands going up? I'm not seeing any other hands raised.
Not, I think you're good.
Okay.
We got Alex Melamed. We got to make this fast.
Okay, Alex.
Sorry, that was just a reaction button for a thumbs up.
Okay.
Thanks, guys. Keep going.
Sorry. Okay, so I think we've pretty much covered everybody. Hopefully we're not excluding anybody. So I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to Planning Commission.
I'd like to make a motion.
Well, I was just going to ask first if there's any questions or concerns anybody at Planning Commission has that they need addressed, or are we ready for a motion at this point? Okay, Laura,
I've got a fast question for Denise. It was clear to me whether or not you needed any kind of additional permission for that marquee sign. Does that need to be in the motion, or was that a non-issue?
Well, they have to come for a variance for the outdoor patio having a 0 lot line and some additional types of signs. So we would also address that as a variance because of it being on a marquee. And unless Brianne has an objection to that. I do not. I mean, this is one of those things that our code says, something's a roof sign, and, the argument's been made that it's not because it's not on the roof, which is, something that the BZA can take up because it is addressing all the other variances for signage, and this pertains to signage. So it doesn't necessarily have to be in the Planning Commission's condition that, the BZA, I mean, you're going to be having a recommending condition that they go to the BZA for variance for signage pertaining to all these other sections of the code.
Yeah, that was
so that's where it'll be decided, not at the Planning Commission level.
So that was in the conditions that were listed at the end of the staff report.
Right. Yeah. So in the motion, the conditions was the variance for the for the signage and the outdoor patio 0 lot line.
Okay, Laura, would you like to make a motion?
I would. I'd like to make a motion that we approve this use and the site plan upon the following conditions: that they seek a variance from the BZA for the east side outdoor patio lot line setback variance and for the sign variance that they need, and that the lighting plan and final signage plan be approved by the zoning administrator, taking into consideration the comments made here tonight.
I will second that motion. Okay. Is there any discussion of the motion as it's been made before we move on to a vote? Okay, in that case, I'll ask the clerk to call the roll, please.
Yes. Curlis.
Yes.
Stiles.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Amend. Amend.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes. Thank you. Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. I'd like to thank everybody for participating, all the helpful information we got, and all the members of the public who showed up to the damn long Zoom meeting to participate in this. That's very important.
I just want to make a comment from staff.
Part of what I love about living in the village. Yes.
I just want to make a comment from staff too, that we thank you very much for your deliberations. This has been something that Johnny Burns, Josue, and I have been working with Max on and Dave for, it's been well over a year, probably close to 2 years. So I'm so glad that this is finally happening. Thank you.
Thank
All
you.
right. Okay.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much.
All right, we'll move on now to the second conditional use application. Alex Melamed of Access Architecture on behalf of Carla Baki. Is it Bachi or Baki? I'm not sure. I'm probably mispronouncing your name. Please correct me. Submitted Bachi, thank you. Conditional use application for an accessory dwelling unit at 118 Marshall Street. So Denise, would you like to summarize the staff report, please?
Sure. Accessory dwelling units are a conditional use, and infill development being a village goal. This use is in compliance with the zoning code. The utilities are going to be shared with the primary dwelling. It's a 1.5 story Cape Cod style home. The accessory dwelling unit will be located on the second floor of a 756 square foot garage. It will be a height of 24 feet, which meets our code. The setbacks and lot coverage requirements in the zoning code are also met. The parking requirement for an ADU is 2 for the primary and 1 for the ADU, and the property can easily accommodate 3 up to 7 parking spaces. And staff approves this use and is not requiring any conditions of approval.
Okay. Do any members of the Planning Commission have any questions or concerns specifically to Denise or perhaps to Alex regarding this application?
Alex, do you have a elevation of this garage? I just see the layouts, but I was kind of curious what it actually looked like. It was hard to figure out why it had such a funny shape.
Yeah, if I could share my screen, I could show it to you. Let's see.
That working?
I am disabled.
Oh, no, Alex.
Oh, thank you. Very nice.
There we go. Okay.
That should do it. All right.
Okay.
Can you see this, the
Yes.
building?
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, there we have, this is the house.
Yeah.
These are construction elevations with the, can you see my cursor?
Yeah.
Yes.
Cool. These are sort of the additions to the house, so they're very fitting. The current front elevation seen from the street is here. And the addition, so this is on the side and moving towards the back, close to the back of the lot, within setbacks is the carriage house. And then there's the design contains a nice walkway, a little kind of screen porch that would architecturally connect these. But we don't know if that's going to be built at the same time. So that's why it's listed as an accessory dwelling and not an addition.
Okay. Now that makes sense. The way the roof has 2 different pitches makes sense of why it looks like it does. Okay.
Right. Yeah, it's a little confusing in plan. Elevation makes it clear. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
So, Alex, are you going to stop sharing your screen?
Stop sharing. There's the button. Little red button.
All right. Okay. Any other questions members of the Planning Commission have for Denise or Alex at this point? Okay. If not, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing to see if there are any members of the public out there who would like to comment on this conditional use application. If so, please wave or electronically raise your hand, and we'll give everybody a few seconds to chime in. Okay, I'm not seeing anything.
I do not have anyone, Frank.
Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to the Planning Commission for any final considerations or thoughts anybody has.
I will say there's a similar carriage house right next door. So it's fitting for the neighborhood.
No questions? Okay. I'll go ahead and move that we approve the application for the conditional use application at 118 Marshall Street for the accessory dwelling unit.
I second it.
Okay. Any discussion of the motion or any ongoing concerns before I have the clerk call the roll? Okay. Would you call the roll, please?
Yes, Green.
Yes.
Stiles.
Yes.
Emmond.
Yes.
Curlis.
Yes.
Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. And thank you guys. Thank you guys for your patience for sticking with us all night.
Interesting.
All right. Okay, we'll move on to the third conditional use application. Jim Johnson has submitted a conditional use application for a bed and breakfast establishment at 310 Dayton Street. And again, Denise, could you start us off with a summary of the staff report?
Sure. The B&B requirements are met as it is a detached single-family dwelling. In the floor plan, which you have in your packet, it shows 2 guest bedrooms upstairs with on the downstairs floor, he shows what is called a music room, which is a guest visiting area. The owner will live on site on the first floor at the back of the house. He will be providing breakfast along with an evening snack, which is also a requirement of the B&B. And of course, he will have to live on site. He does intend to add 2 parking spaces at the front of this property, as well as he has space for the required 2 parking spaces for his primary dwelling that's on the existing driveway. The letters that have come in have been in support. I believe there was a letter from the neighbor directly to the east. And as well as, I think there was a last minute one that came in today, Judy, as well. And both are in support. And then further down, Ellen Hoover also gave a letter of support. And staff approves this use and is really not requiring any conditions of approval.
Okay. All right, thank you. Do any members of the Planning Commission have any questions for Denise, or perhaps I guess Jim is here as well for Jim?
I have 2 questions.
Sure.
When you say there are 2 parking spaces in the front, I was kind of trying to imagine where in the front.
As you pull into the driveway, there'll be a parking pad to the right, where there's currently a lawn area.
Okay.
So there'll be no lawn.
Oh, he has lawn. He won't have a portion of the lawn in the front.
It's in Denise it's on the diagram. It's on page 1. Is that the proposed parking?
Yes.
That's right. Okay. Do you see that, Laura?
It's not existing right now.
I'm not sure if I looked at the packet a couple of times. And what page you say it's the diagram's on?
It's page 3. It's Exhibit B.
Okay.
When you see the proposed parking, he's got
Exhibit
pavers
B.
there. Yeah. So he'll have his driveway which goes back to the garage.
Yeah, I see it.
Okay.
And then a sign, 4-foot square. I feel like it's kind of large because a lot of politicians like me have 4-foot square signs, and they're pretty big. That's what is allowed under the code?
I don't have the code in front of me, but if that's what it says, it is. It would be 2 by 2.
Oh, a two by, not a, okay.
So, because it would be a 4-foot square.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
4 square feet.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, thank you, Laura. Any other Planning Commission members have any questions? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open the public hearing to see if anybody has any members of the public. And again, give people time to either electronically raise your hand or wave at the camera. Okay, not seeing any activity, so I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing and bring it back to Planning Commission. So,
I guess one other question, and I didn't go and walk on the property or anything, but so the proposed parking in front, taking out the lawn, is that the only logical place for it, the additional parking?
Yes, because otherwise it would require a second curb cut, which on Dayton Street probably is not a great idea.
And Is there parking on the street there?
Not on that side.
Okay.
I think if where he's located, I don't think so. You can park along in front of 314 Dayton Street, but I'm not so sure. It's pretty narrow there. We could ask him. It wouldn't be very safe parking.
Right.
Okay. Any other questions or concerns from members of the Planning Commission? Okay. That's the case. I'll go ahead and move that we approve the application for the bed and breakfast establishment at 310 Dayton Street.
I'll second.
Okay. Any discussion of the amendment? If not, would the clerk call the roll, please?
Yes. Stiles.
Yes.
Green.
Yes.
Amend.
Yes.
Curlis.
Yes.
Doden.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you very much. And again, thank you for sticking with us all night.
Thank you, Jim.
Okay. All right. That gets us to the thin part of the agenda at the bottom of the sheet: old business, new business, and agenda planning. Do we have anything in any of those three categories?
I'd like to, we keep on talking about parking, and I know that this issue is like at some point we're going to do a parking study. I'm just, I'm just kind of like, I don't know where this belongs, but I feel like maybe I'm wondering whether there isn't some kind of technical solutions or some way of helping people see where the parking spots are, because the example about the Little Art Theater is really insightful. That sometimes the Little Art is full and all those people find places to park, and people coming into the village, I don't think the challenge is that there aren't parking spots, it's finding parking spots. Right. So I don't know what we can do to help that and really, we had this discussion here with my family, and they were saying that, well, if you can see the front of the building, that's where you want to park. So the suggestion came up that maybe we need to put a big tower right in downtown so that you could park someplace further away and see where you were trying to get to. In any case, I'm just wondering whether there isn't an opportunity for us to do something different.
When we did the comprehensive land use plan, which happened between 2019 through 2020, because of COVID, things got slowed down a little bit. Staff did do some parking plans for ways to increase on-street parking. At the time, council didn't choose to add those into the comprehensive land use plan, but they are open to considering that again. And staff has mentioned the fact that we really need to do a deep dive parking study. And really, the thing about it is we pretty much know what needs to be done, but it would help to have a professional study done to just solidify what we probably already know, and to be able to just make some modifications on street and having wayfinding signs. One of the thoughts was that, if you just walk south a little bit on the east side of Xenia Avenue, you'll come upon East South College Street. It has a very wide street, like 70 feet, and there isn't anything there. And we could have angled parking along that. And if people knew that they could park there, either through a web-based parking map that we might be able to provide, some signage, that might help. People would say, oh, it's only 5 minutes away and I can easily park there instead of trying to fight for a place downtown.
Right.
That's East North College.
Yeah, so we really want to, and staff is going to be bringing that to council. But it wouldn't hurt to have the Planning Commission make that their recommendation. Yes, that we do want to see this done, because we are gearing up right now for doing our budgets for 2022.
Okay. Do you think that Downtown Business Association would be able to give input into that parking plan? It sounds like they're organized and they have some ideas, and I think their feedback would be valuable.
That's a great point, Sarah. And yes, I think that they would be, not only would they just be able to add input into it, but they definitely would be in support, which would help.
Does it make any sense to hire LBJ because they've already done it for
Yeah. I mean, Dan Hoying, I was sorry to see that he wasn't on there because we actually asked him, what is a typical parking study? And, it can be anywhere from 30 to 50,000, depending on how deep a dive you want to go. But he said he would try to come up with some, ideas for a quote that we could bring before council when we were working on our budgets. But we worked with LJB a lot, over the many, many years.
What I really want to know is on a very busy, sunny Saturday, how many spaces are empty within a 1 to 2 block walk of downtown? I suspect it's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And there are lots of private property owners who during street fair open up and make money parking. And you would think that if there was that much demand, they would jump on this more on the regular weekend, for example.
Right. And, and Johnny Burns, he's on here right now, I think.
I might just caution you against having a discussion at this point because it's not on the agenda.
I'm just suggesting that what we need is a peak usage study and what's empty. Because we know that when it's not peak, we got plenty of spots, right?
Well, yeah, I know what I was just saying with Johnny. I won't make him talk, but just that, we have other locations and at Cemetery Street in US 68. Right. He's going to create a parking area there.
And I think the idea of doing the lights and making it the bike path more walkable might enhance people parking at some of these other lots rather than everyone trying to go downtown too. So that should be considered.
We can add that under new business if you want.
Yeah, why don't we do that?
Okay,
and I want to point out before people forget what they saw tonight, but that parking study shows that, and I don't know if it's real or not, but that an additional 36 spaces might be added on some of property Mr. Chappelle owns.
Johnny, did you?
Yeah, I would just like to make a comment. I know that we have studied a lot of things in Yellow Springs, and I would advocate to take some of staff's recommendations, and instead of putting money towards parking study that we all know that we need more parking, and put it towards the infrastructure, making it actually happen.
Good point. So, we can add it just for discussion for the next meeting, just a very general discussion. And then if we want to move on really quickly to agenda planning. Yes. Outdoor, the Gulch. Okay. So the Gulch, the Winds, Peaches, all of those groups followed with the COVID protocol to allow for more of an expanded outdoor patio space, which it doesn't expire until the end of 2022. However, the Winds is getting ready to invest some money into creating a permanent, larger outdoor patio. Same with the Gulch. And so they're going to come. Hopefully the Winds will come as well. The Gulch has already submitted their application for October. And then the Emporium, Frank, you'll probably have to recuse from this one.
I haven't been part of that for years.
Oh, okay, great. Okay, so I didn't know if you were a silent partner or whatever, but so they are coming. They want to serve beer and wine, and they are looking into that licensing, and so they'll need to come for a conditional use hearing. So we definitely have 2, possibly 3 or 4 relating to that in the downtown area.
Okay. All right. Anything else for agenda planning anybody has? Otherwise, I think we can move on to adjournment. Okay. I will second that. All those in favor of adjourning, I think we can just wave.
Yay!
Yay!
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, everybody, for a long meeting, but a good meeting. So thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
Good night, everyone.